Welcome to Around the Bases, the pop culture and sports podcast with your host,
Charlie Seymour.
and I'm Tim Sternberg. Hit it, Nick. We are back with another awesome edition of Around the Bases, the pop culture and sports podcast with a very, very special guest. It's the one and only co-host creator of Pop Culture Roulette, Nicholas Pepin, our buddy. How you doing, Nicholas? Welcome.
I'm pretty good. How about you guys?
Oh, great. We've been waiting for this for a long time.
Glad to have you. Good to see you again, Nick.
Yeah.
You know, you got us going there a couple of weeks ago. I know you shared it on your podcast with your bracket. I was into it. I loved it. For our listeners who don't know, Nicholas and his buddies over at Pop Culture Roulette created a vehicle bracket. Basically the best vehicles of all time out of TV, movies, pop culture, you name it, and vehicles in quotes, because some of them are interesting vehicles, but I would go the same route. So yeah. What ended up winning, Nicholas?
Well, let's see. The Mystery Machine won the TV bracket.
That's a good vehicle.
The 89 Batmobile won the movie bracket. The hoverboard from Back to the Future won the other bracket, which was just like everything that didn't really fit in the other categories. And then the Millennium Falcon won the sci-fi bracket, the TV movies from the sci-fi world. It was just
Tim will take any win with Back to the Future.
I love the hoverboard.
The DeLorean did make it to the final against Millennium Falcon, and I, as much as I wanted to vote for the DeLorean, I mean, in the world of science fiction, I don't think it gets more iconic than the Millennium Falcon, even compared to the DeLorean. So,
yeah, I think that's fair.
I shared this with Charlie. As an astounding Back to the Future fan that I am, I would have voted for the Millennium Falcon too, if I'm going to be a realist, because Star Wars is another level of pop culture.
Yeah, amazing. I mean that we do a lot of brackets over at Pop Culture Roulette. I mean, we did an Adam Sandler movie bracket a while back. We did Nick Cage. We did Girl Scout cookies once.
What won? Yeah, what won Girl Scout?
Well, it was not a unanimous decision, but I'm pretty sure Thin Mints. I'm pretty sure
that's what I would have voted for.
I voted for, depending on what part of the country you're in, either Samoas or Caramel Delights.
Samoas are good.
Yeah. I don't like anything caramel. I usually have an order that's like 12 to 15 boxes, exclusively Thin Mints.
We are on the same page. And then I have
to get one more order right before the cutoff to stock up.
How many of them go in the freezer?
That's what I was going to ask.
I actually don't put them in the freezer. I don't really love them cold, to be honest with you.
Oh. Wow.
I like them just room temperature.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's usually like 2 rows of boxes.
So you still currently have them in your freezer?
I'm down to like the last 2.
Oh, so I can sneak.
You special occasion, I would say so.
Your friends visiting this weekend. All right.
you can have some if you'd like.
It is. Erica, you like Thin Mints? Yeah, she likes them too. He's off to the side, fellas. I would vote for Thin Mints, but I understand Samoas. If they don't have Thin Mints, and I get really upset if they don't have Thin Mints, I would go with a box of Samoas one. I wouldn't buy multiple, but yeah.
I used to, and it's part of the reason that I'm in the situation that I'm in now, could down an entire box of Samoas in one sitting.
I mean, they're
I believe it. Yeah, I could do it too.
It's pretty easy to at least go through one sleeve.
Yeah, it's you. I consciously have to stop myself from, but that's why I'm not allowed to have that stuff anymore, and I have to take special pills every day.
Yeah, I know my sugar thing. I can't do that either. Your Thin Mints, buddy, are safe in your freezer. I promise you. If we were to do a bracket, Charlie, I'm thinking a good one would be Simpsons guest stars.
Oh, that'd be a
that
great bracket.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Where's my
Wait, whoa, he's
hold
stealing
on.
it.
I'm gonna write that down
You
right
need
now.
to have us on PCR then if you're gonna do it.
Let's see future topics here.
I mean, it's okay, Tim. You did say it aloud, and it is on the recording.
I claimed it on this recording.
Yeah, it's not going to stop me from stealing it. It really isn't.
That's okay. I think that's a good one to steal.
I love it. Yeah, Charlie will be all over that one.
I have done like we've done a bunch of different brackets. It's even hard to remember how many we've done, but I guest star occasionally on another podcast called Moving Panels, which is dedicated to just movies and TV shows from comic books. Like even if it's about superheroes, but it didn't have a comic book first, he won't cover it. So we did, he won our March Madness bracket a couple years ago. So he got to pick, and he picked worst comic movie adaptation. So we did the bracket, and then he decided he liked it so much, he was going to do it. So I got to do it a second time, doing it on PCR, and then I went on Moving Panels and did it.
I love it.
So
there's enough room for everybody.
So when I steal Simpsons guest stars, if you guys like it, I'll just come and do it again. Yeah.
Yeah,
because there's a good chance I'll vote differently.
We might have to film a special episode in Chicago.
Do recurring characters count, or is it exclusively guest star?
Well, that's something I'll have to figure out when I create the bracket. Rules. Now,
that's what we need to know. We need to know
the pop culture vehicle bracket. The really big one I did a couple years ago for the ad icons. That was a massive undertaking. Those ones are harder to do because
like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and stuff like that.
I don't think he did because he's not technically because he came from the movie. But we did like the cereals, like Toucan Sam and Snap Crackle Pop. Like we did, and it was for the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl is big in advertising. Those are harder to do because there's hard to come up with a ranking system. Justin, one of the co-hosts of PCR, figured out a system for movies. So in the case of the Adam Sandler bracket, instead of just ranking them how we like them and dictating how the movies get put on the bracket, we came up with a number system. So you go to IMDb, Metacritic, and Rotten Tomatoes. And so if IMDb gives it a 7.5, it just becomes a 75. So everything gets
aggregating the three scores.
And then so you get the score out of
talking 3. Charlie's language with the stats.
So each movie gets a score out of 300. So the best no movie's ever going to have a 300. The best we've ever had is like a 290 in the 260s, 270s. And the lowest one I think we've ever done was like in the 30s. Yeah. Out of 300. But it's
what movie was that? Do you remember?
It was one of the video game movies. One of I'm sure Uwe Boll's classics. But it's a lot easier to do a movie bracket because I can give them a number and then I just have to plug the number into the bracket. Where like the pop culture vehicle bracket is a lot harder because it doesn't have a number. So basically, I just put it in the bracket, and then I just hit random a bunch of times until I'm like.
You didn't want any heavy favorites head to head early,
right? And I try not to do that, but I also try not to dictate the outcome because it's very easy when you're setting up a bracket to like guarantee one moves pretty far. And although Jeremy is always a wild card because
among other things.
You never know when his opinion on the Death Star is going to shock you. Well,
I didn't think of it that way, but as you said, we try to keep this podcast clean.
We don't.
I know.
To keep ours
I
clean.
love that too, though.
But yeah. So I mean that is we have sort of unintentionally become just the bracket cast. But I mean it's fun. It's an easy way to kill an hour and get a good episode in. I feel like at least when I'm editing back, the most fun that we have is on a good bracket.
You did. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed listening to you. I love you guys back and forth. And by the way, I think your co-hosts are funny and they're quirky. I love it. It's such a great podcast, folks. Pop Culture Roulette. Look it up on your Spotify, Apple. Where else are you?
wherever you can get your podcast from. I've done my best to put it on there. And if I'm not there, let me know. I'll figure out what it takes to get it on that server.
Got it. So, but speaking of pop culture, and I know you talk about it a lot on your podcast. What are you listening to right now or watching? What's like some of the things that makes you really excited?
Well, I know you guys have been talking about it, but The Boys.
Oh,
The
yes.
Boys has made me really excited. I know some people have been pretty upset with this season, but I feel like that's just because
All political.
yeah, because people just can't stop themselves from complaining. I knew that the
There's a
season
meme.
yeah, I knew going into it, because they had already announced that season 5 was going to be the last season, that we were not going to get a satisfactory ending of season 4. You just knew that
It's a cliffhanger.
you knew, especially going into what is going to be the last season, you're not going to get a nice tidy ending, or like a half cliffhanger. So I was not surprised. I mean, there was some things that happened that I was surprised by, but I wasn't surprised by the fact that it was a cliffhanger, or as
So,
much of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it
let
was
me.
pretty obvious that was gonna cliffhang.
What? How did Butcher all of a sudden not be dying? Like that
He
lost me.
shot
I
up
like.
V.
Okay, so
Oh,
Had
in
to.
season 3, when him and Huey started taking the temp V, because he took it a couple more times than Huey did, it infected him with the V'd up cancer. Because remember when Annie called him and was like, "You can't take this stuff; it's going to kill you."
And
He
he
did it
already had.
anyway, but
Yeah.
he kept Huey from doing it, which kept Huey from having the same problem.
so now, yeah. So I guess to your point, Charlie, he shot up V. So all of a sudden, at the end of the episode, the Butcher, he I don't know when he went. You know how you break spaghetti when you cook some pasta? He basically did that with a human being. I don't know.
That's a pretty good analogy right there.
Right? I mean,
He pretty much snapped fresh pasta in half. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he,
Rather graphic.
because
sorry.
they're all sort of allegories of like Marvel and DC characters. Obviously Homelander being Superman, Queen Maeve being Wonder Woman. Butcher went from being the Punisher to Venom.
Yeah, I think that's
Speaking of good
appropriate.
analogies, I mean, that's another good one right there.
So do you think speaking of what's hold on, I'm trying to find him on my list here because um so I keep messing up his name. Hold on one second.
Carl Urban?
No, not Carl Urban. No, that's
Jack
the
Quinn?
actor. I'm talking about another character on the show, the one that goes really fast. I don't want to mess up his name.
A-Train.
So A-Train is basically the Flash, I guess.
Yeah, A-Train is the Flash, or
Who's Spider-Man?
There so far I don't think there's, well,
Maybe Newman's daughter.
So speaking of the Punisher, do you think that Soldier Boy, surprise at the end of this season, is coming back? Right?
oh yeah, I mean,
Supernatural.
the way they ended season 2 with him, you knew he was coming back at some point. Like you don't, showing him getting put back in the tube instead of just showing us a dead body was like, we're bringing him back. We just don't know when yet.
Yeah, kick the can down the road.
Jensen Ackles, of course, who plays Soldier Boy, who was on Supernatural, right?
Yeah.
On the CW. He was also years ago on a soap opera called Days of Our Lives. He played a character on there. So he's done a lot of different things. Very, very good actor. Plays a real villain, very he's like, he's good. I don't know. I'm interested to see how that's gonna kind of work out. Of course, Soldier Boy is Homelander's father, right? Am I remembering that correctly? Yes.
Kind of, yeah.
Daddy. So now we have 3 generations. So we have Homelander, his son, and now, of course, Soldier Boy. Something tells me the season's going to be a battle of good versus evil the last season, as it's been, but like to a crescendo. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Ryan's a big wild card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ryan's going to turn against his father. That's my feeling.
He seems to be heading that way, but you
Yeah.
know, it's going to be interesting. You know,
I just I've heard of the comic before. I've seen the show, and it is just so uniquely different than anything I have seen on TV. I think that's the attractiveness of it. Plus, the story is really good. And hi, Rocket. Rocket, is that Rocket, Charlie?
No, she's not in here. She's
Oh, not in there.
firmly downstairs.
Oh,
You'll see her
but
soon.
yeah, I can't wait. But it's just, the story really drives the show, I think.
yeah.
Plus the
Well,
graphic.
yeah. Now, the show and the comic book kind of stopped being related to each other somewhere through the first season. At least I've never read the book. I did, again, to reference another podcast, Moving Panels. We did a whole episode on season 1 a couple weeks ago, where we broke down like the characters and kind of what the season was. And he does all the reading, so I don't have to, because it's his podcast and I got to do enough stuff for mine. Um, but
You do stuff for your podcast?
occasionally. Uh, but you know, so you know, we talked about the big differences, and you know, and I did, you know, you can do a quick Wikipedia read on it and know that there's a couple of big characters that haven't made it, and I don't think they will.
Mm.
But you know, there's you know, they kind of went off on their own direction, and I think that honestly makes stuff better. Like the MCU, like a lot of people complain that the MCU doesn't stick true to the comics, and I was like, but I've read that. Like,
Right. You want a different story. You don't want to expect what.
I read Brand New Day. I don't want to see the exact representation of Brand New Day. I want to see my characters represented accurately, but I don't necessarily want to see the exact same story. So I love that Marvel is blending 616 and Ultimate and some of the other stuff and kind of going off on their own way. Have either of you had a chance to see Deadpool versus Deadpool and Wolverine?
I was hoping
Charlie was telling me how good it was.
I was hoping you brought it that up. Yes.
Because I'm a huge Marvel fan, so I tend
no spoilers though, because Tim hasn't seen it yet.
I'm not gonna spoil it.
Thank you, Charlie.
It's gonna be very hard, but I knew that because of my Twitter addiction, that and my Facebook problem, that movie was going to be spoiled for me.
I'm scared.
So my wife and I decided we had to go see it opening weekend. So we went Saturday morning and saw it. And I'm so glad I did, because so many of the really cool stuff.
I will say, yes, I have seen many of the really cool things on Twitter since we saw the movie. Luckily, I didn't go too.
I'm staying off of Twitter.
Yeah, you should probably stay off.
I should probably stay off Twitter in general. I really
yes,
every so
ever
often
since Elon took over.
Not even like honestly, it's gotten better since he's taken it over. But you know, it's also gotten dumber. But I every so often my finger holds above the delete button, and it's just like, come on, you know. But
so Charlie tells me there's a lot of Easter eggs in the movie.
Oh,
so many Easter eggs.
And I can't even tell you some of them without spoiling stuff. I mean,
let me ask a question, because I saw recently, and you can tell me this. I saw recently there's a poster that has Deadpool and Wolverine imitating Marty and Doc. Is there like a Back to the Future thing in there?
No.
No? Okay.
Charlie?
Charlie wants to say something.
No.
Oh.
Maybe.
Okay.
No.
All right.
I mean,
I'll take it. All right.
Maybe a vague reference here or there, but nothing.
The poster was freaking awesome. I loved it.
This isn't a spoiler, but there was one Easter egg that, let's just say, they lead you to believe is one Easter egg, but it's really a different Easter egg, and that was maybe one of my favorite things of the whole.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about, Charlie. And
you absolutely do.
If you want me to leave the room from
no, it's okay.
So the wife and I went to a 10 o'clock in the morning Saturday show. So early because we were
awake. It's too early.
We saw it Monday at 1 o'clock.
The theater was packed.
Yeah,
like at 10 o'clock in the morning.
10 o'clock in the morning.
We were Monday after with people at work 1 o'clock, and it was like 80% full.
I would say it 85 to 90% full at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning.
That movie's gonna
and it's
make
on like
major box
22
office.
screens.
The scene that Charlie is talking about, when it happened, the whole theater lost it.
Yeah,
it was
agreed.
all right, to give you a comparison. Did you see No Way Home? The Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yes.
All right, so you know the scene when the gate opens and Tobey Maguire comes out and everybody's like, oh, and then Andrew Garfield.
Well, I already knew about it before.
Well,
then,
yeah, I mean, but then Andrew Garfield comes out and all three of them, and the whole theater, just like you could feel the air, very, very similar.
Yeah.
Oh,
agreed.
I mean,
Totally
not
agreed.
in like scene, but just like the feeling in the room was very similar to what happened I mean, the scene had nothing. I mean,
I'm picturing it.
I'm kind of leading you down the wrong path, sort
No,
of.
I think it's just something that pops up that's surprising.
Yeah,
Yeah,
throws you off. Yeah,
I appreciate.
But there's also so many great, just great.
When I got home, I had to spend a fair amount of time on the internet just breaking down what I saw, because I was like, "Did I see that? Yes. Did I say? Oh, I missed that.
I still haven't even done that yet.
So you have to watch it again.
A second
time. Oh yeah, there's no way.
Oh wait, Charlie, you want to see it a second time?
Yeah, see, we could do that. We could do that one of the days.
Yeah. So
wow.
So that's another thing recently that I've been watching was that, and I really, really loved it.
Oh, it was so good.
The original Deadpool movie to me was one of the best things I've ever seen. I love that movie so much.
Yeah. Now we rewatched Deadpool 2 to kind of remind ourselves of what happened, which
I had rewatched both 1 and 2.
Was sort of unnecessary.
Yeah,
but,
you could just
then they showed Deadpool so many good Deadpool 2 Easter eggs too that it's like I'm glad I just rewatched it.
It's such an irreverent character. I love that character so much, and Ryan Reynolds is.
And that's one of the examples of Marvel. Really, I mean, well, even though Fox kind of did the first two, but with this one, Marvel letting Ryan Reynolds do what Ryan Reynolds does best, but still holding to the spirit of the comic
character.
Like, I mean, there are some changes from the book to the movie, but not enough that you don't like. He doesn't embody that character. I mean, it's one of those, like, there will be somebody in the future playing Deadpool who's not Ryan Reynolds.
Right.
There will be a Wolverine not named Hugh Jackman at some point. Just get over it. It's going to happen.
So I remember I remember reading the books of when Wolverine and Deadpool kind of teamed up together back in the day. And I always remember that Deadpool was always this jokey guy, and Wolverine is a straight ace, kind of don't mess around with me. Get out of my, you're annoying me. Is that kind of their reverence that both of them kind of play, like a yin yang type of thing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You'll get a couple scenes that will be good for what you just described.
Got it. Okay. That's cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Now, here, I have a question for you, Tim.
Sure.
You obviously haven't seen it yet, but you've seen, I mean, I assume you've seen at least the official trailer and things like that. So there are some things you already know, right?
Correct.
Like, I'm just curious, throw out a couple of them that you already know, because then we can touch on them if you already know them. Does that make sense?
I don't remember offhand, honestly.
Okay, well, obviously you know about the dog.
Oh yeah, the dog. Yes.
Dog pool. Okay.
Deadpool dog pool.
You will absolutely be in love with
That's so
pool.
fucking funny.
Impossible.
That reminds me of the mask. By the way, that reminds me of the mask. You know, when the dog puts the mask on and the mask.
Yep.
You actually read the comics occasionally, or did at some point?
Yeah, about 30 years ago.
Okay, so you
have them. I have them.
So you didn't read any of the newer? I mean, I say newer, but it's probably, I haven't bought a comic book in probably 10 to 12 years. So take that into consideration. There was the Deadpool core, where
I've heard of that.
Yeah, Deadpool core in the comic books, where like he went through other dimensions and got Kid Pool and Deadpool.
Yes.
And Lady Pool and Cowboy Pool and Kid Pool and Head Pool. So like that is heavily referenced, but you've seen that in the trailer. So that's nothing that I'm not spoiling anything there.
Okay, see, that's one of the things that I wanted to mention, because if he did know that, then it wouldn't be a spoiler. He just named a bunch of them.
Oh, you could tell me anything in the trailer.
So I just want to talk about the rumors that have to be true, right? What? Lady Pool has got to be Blake Lively.
According to IMDb, it is.
Okay, yeah.
Wow.
That's the rumor, but like, do we? As it hasn't actually been confirmed, has it?
I like it. That is what the internet is reporting. I don't have. I mean,
Had to be.
it like I said, IMDb says it is, and nobody's changed it since that it's been come out. So
I looked carefully in the end credits. I did not see that one listed. I wonder if that was on purpose.
I don't know.
I'd have to see it again and pay even closer attention.
And the credits could be different by the when it makes it to home video or streaming, because they could add some of the stuff that they were.
Obviously you were able to pick out a few of them. Like, I won't spoil it, but a certain, you described it without a name, but a certain item that
Here,
they wear.
the Deadpool and Wolverine end credits confirm, however, that Lively is dead Ladypool, even if her face is never seen in a movie. Lively also wrote about her experience playing Ladypool in a post on her Instagram account on Friday, and this was written 3 days ago.
So
it is Blake Lively.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that. Did either of you watch What We Do in the Shadows?
Oh, I need to. I've never started from the beginning. I've seen
what is on
FX.
FX, yeah. So it is.
It's like right up my alley, and I've never started.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It is a brilliant TV show, and I'm kind of sad that the season that'll be starting here pretty soon will be the last season.
Yeah.
But it is. It's one of my favorite shows on TV right now. So.
Oh, 4 vampires. Ooh, I just read.
It is
a little synopsis on it.
Yeah, it's so 4 vampires. It's a documentary crew filming these vampires who have taken over a house in Staten Island.
Of course.
Matt Berry, one of the
Staten
vampires.
Island?
Oh, they got.
So the New York vampires.
No, because 3 of them are from.
They're from like England, right?
Or one's from England. 2 of them are from England. One of them is from some random country that might or might not exist. But they were sent over from Europe at the beginning of America, and they never got past Staten Island because they are lazy.
That's amazing.
And somehow a documentary film crew found them, and so like it's being filmed. It's kind of like The Office, but with vampires that are dumb.
Oh, I love that. I love The Office. So, that's definitely up your alley.
Some great people in it.
That's definitely a Charlie show for sure.
It's amazing.
It's on the list.
It's on the list. Yeah. I did watch, by speaking of the list, in the last episode, I shockingly told Charlie that I had never seen Guardians of the Galaxy. I've seen the first one now. So
I meant to text you on that.
I know
some sort of verbal slap of you've never seen these movies.
Oh, I just dropped my phone. I know.
Now, did you download number 2 to watch on the plane?
Not. I need to. Erica needs to download Guardians. She reminds me. I have to. I love the way one ended with little Groot in the pot, and they're kind of like, oh, we're getting together, we're the Guardians. I can see absolutely why you love Groot so much, and Rocket's awesome character too. Like, I love that character.
They're so
badass raccoon. I mean, what the hell?
They're so great.
Yeah, I know. I was actually expecting a text from you, Nicholas, with a little verbal slap.
Well, see, the problem is that I tend to listen to podcasts on the way to work.
Yeah.
And when I get home, when I get to work, I don't
forget.
I have to do stuff right away, and then I forget. And
you have to work at work. What is that?
Yeah, I know. Work gets in the way of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it sure does. It's so annoying. All right. I will download episode. I was gonna say episode 2 because I'm on Star Wars in my head. I will download the second movie.
Volume 2.
Volume 2. For the perusal over the way to 6 something in the morning from Fort Lauderdale to Chicago. Yeah. I just had to remind Erica that we're getting up at really early this morning. I look forward to it. So what else? What else? Anything else on the that you're listening to right now?
I mean, all the Olympics are on, so we've been watching that a lot. I mean,
Definitely big Olympics household.
yeah.
Men's gymnastics, man, that was awesome. Like that what's
Pommel horse boy.
oh my God, no, Jurosic, right?
Bringing in
Steve.
the closer for the 9.
There's a meme on that NBC did. Steve. Funniest thing I've ever seen. And they interviewed him like the day after, and he's like, Steve. So he's like owning it, which I love when people own stuff like that because, it
I
makes
mean,
them.
I was really excited to see us win bronze. Because I mean, we haven't won a medal in men's gymnastic in who knows how long. And I obviously super excited that we won gold for women's.
Absolutely love Simone
But
Biles.
the
She
whole
crushed
time,
it.
like they were talking about, this is our
Yes, she
redemption
did.
tour, our redemption tour. You won silver. Like it's not like you didn't finish at
But
all.
the expectation, I guess.
I know, but still, you won
Doesn't
silver.
that make you feel good though? It's a redemption tour and they still got silver.
Right? Like you. This is our redemption tour. You won gold the last 2 Olympics, then you won silver, and then you won gold again. What are you redeeming?
They're redeeming that they didn't get gold. Come on.
Well, Simone had a tough Olympics the last time, so I mean, it's nice to redeem that.
I guess maybe that part, but it just the whole time, every time they said it, I'm like, you still got silver. Like,
well, I mean, you think too about what the women, you're right, but you think about what the women's gymnastics team has been through with all the allegations and what happened, what this monster did. And I mean, to rise from that is pretty impressive, even though,
I mean,
I give the lady some credit.
I'm not saying that winning gold, because obviously winning gold is not easy. I mean, they went from like 1930 something to 2006 to, I mean, 1996 without winning a medal.
And that's what Mary Lou written in there.
Yeah. And, so, I mean, winning gold, I mean, I don't know what it takes to qualify for the women's all around, but I think, isn't it only like 8 countries that get that far?
Yeah,
Something
I think so. Yeah.
So just getting to the final 8 is pretty impressive.
100%.
And then finishing on the podium at all in the Olympics means like you're one of the top 3 countries out of how 200 something countries. I don't know how many there are. And, so like to me, like winning silver, you're like, there's nothing to redeem. You don't have to apologize for only winning silver.
Other countries have some top athletes as well.
Right. Except for basketball. You have to apologize for winning silver. But
if you're LeBron James, yes, you need to apologize for winning silver.
But no other sport,
gold easy.
No other sport,
100%.
Yeah, no other sport has to apologize for winning anything. Like, I mean, Michael Phelps has 28 medals. Only 23 of them are gold.
Did you guys see the picture of all the medals on him? Like, I don't even know how he's standing.
He probably got some hints from Mr. T.
Yeah. Pity the fool.
I looked it up once. If Michael Phelps was a country by himself, he would be like 64 or 63, like all time, just by himself.
That's wild.
Like,
see, you're touching on my favorite sport in the Olympics, swimming by far, because I used to do that a long time ago. But yeah, Phelps, when he was going through and winning those medals, there is nothing cooler. And I remember as a kid rooting for I'm going to go back in time before at least one of you were born, but Mark Spitz, when he was winning in the 1980 Olympics. Indiana Hoosier, right? I was rooting for him like crazy. And so that kind of reminded me of that. And to see Phelps do what he did and to see him do it with such passion. That's what's great about sports. When people really are, they've built their whole, that's what Steve, right, in this whole men's Olympic team, the gymnastics team, they work their ass off. They get up at 4:00 in the morning. They're going to the gym. They're working out, and then they're going and taking a shower and going to work all day. I mean, I guess I have nothing to complain about. If these guys or these ladies are able to do this, then I should be able to get my ass to the gym once a day or do something like that. I mean, it's unbelievably the discipline that's involved to do that is incredible.
And to think, like, I mean, not to take anything away from Mark Spitz, but like Michael Phelps was doing it in a generation where everybody, more countries, more athletes have access to the kind of training that Michael Phelps has access to. I mean, how many of those swimmers or other athletes did you? I heard when we were watching the gymnastics, how many of them are training in the same gym that Simone Biles and Jordan Childs and Sonny Lee are training?
You're right.
They're
You're
coming
right.
over here and training and then going back
Salt Lake
over.
City.
Right. There. So I mean, so it almost, I mean, I'm not saying that, because Mark Spitz was also like didn't have the access to the training and stuff, and he did have to go to a regular job, where like Michael Phelps was doing it in a generation where we understood nutrition better, training better, like it was just beyond. And he had a bunch of people that were in the same ballpark as he was, where it was Mark Spitz and then everyone else.
That's true. That's exactly what the way it was at the time. Um, I think Phelps. I don't want to take anything away from his performance at all. I think I mean, I don't think I saw a stat the other day on the Olympics that not a single world record that he has set exists anymore.
Something like
That's
that.
how much this is progressing in the sport. Is see how accomplished Phelps was, and that none of those records exist.
And that's
It's
and
wild.
probably, and I think that's also why we might not ever see his medal total be broken, because it is so, because they're also becoming more specialized.
And they learn, right?
A couple of those races were insane. The American that got silver was just as close to winning gold as he was to not even being on the podium.
Exactly.
Like, that's crazy.
Like, and it's like up to like 6th place or something was like this close to being gold.
And
like
8th place was less than 1 second separated.
I
from
saw
first.
that.
It's crazy.
I saw that.
They're such freak athletes. It's wild.
And Nicholas, to your point, and to your point, Charlie, with the specialization, I mean, I even their body types are different now depending on what stroke they're doing. Like, so there's more concentration, like for breast on the upper body there. If you're back, they're working on the back. Their backs are freaking like the Hulk or something. They're really taking that time in the gym to concentrate on the certain areas that they need to and building those up. So I think there's so much like in baseball. I hate to go back to a reference, but Moneyball and applying stats and applying. I think they're doing that in swimming and in the other sports also. I mean, it's very apparent. Look, Steven Nedrosta, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. He became the pommel horse specialist, and that's why he's on the team. He's not great at the other apparatuses, but that's what he's done. And I think statistics, to your love, Charlie, is really playing a role in how it's shaping these Olympians.
Absolutely. I also just wanted to give a shout out to the women's rugby team. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Oh, they're awesome.
That was such a crazy finish to get the bronze. That was so awesome.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
One day I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna figure out what rugby is. Like I've tried.
It's like football and soccer, and it's a mix.
We got the scoring down and everything.
Well, I mean, every 4 years I'm an expert on some sort of.
It's a badass sport, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, every 4 years I'm an expert on curling, and then I then I forget it all, and then
I love curling.
And then all of a sudden curling comes back on, and I'm like, oh, that's right. You got to do this and do this. Oh,
but you know why? You know why you're an expert? Because we all feel like we could do that. At least
curling, I feel like that's the thing.
Have you done it before?
No.
But I feel like
there's a place not too far where you can do it. I've done it before.
Is it
curling? Is one of
we could do it if you want.
Curling is one of those things that like I look at it and I'm like, I feel like I could do that, and then I'll go out and try it and be like, no, I can't. Like,
isn't it basically about knowing how much friction you need for the stone to move in a certain direction? So that's the sweeper's job, and then the thrower's aiming. I don't know. Like, I'm just kind of
I like how we got onto a winter.
I know a Winter Olympics.
It's just, I mean, it was just an
gotta
example
wait another
of,
2 years for that.
I mean, there's just, I mean, like I don't give I can't use the word that I would normally use. A darn about track and field. I don't
like it either.
But every 4 years, 100 meters. Yeah, let's go.
I'm still like
meter,
just take me to the finals, you know, like I do like the racing. The bike racing is cool. I love the velodrome. Oh, I love that stuff.
For
every 4 years.
for three
USA
years
men's soccer got out to the knockout. They're into the knockout round for the first time in
for 3 years and 50 weeks. I don't care about soccer, but for 2 weeks, by golly, I'm a giant soccer fan.
Come on. Well, you gotta get into the Final Four and get a shot.
I think it's BS that women's softball isn't in the Olympics this year.
And baseball, but it'll be back next time.
Yeah, isn't it back for the LA one?
It is. But what the hell? Breakdance? I mean, no offense to breakdancers, but what?
Yeah, I'll make offense to breakdancers. It shouldn't be an Olympic sport.
Why is that a sport? Like, I don't understand even what they're I don't understand.
There's a reason that ballroom dancing isn't an Olympic sport anymore either, you know?
Like I get half pipe, you know, in the Winter Olympics. I get like snowboarding because at least you're able to judge a skill. Like dancing is a skill, but I'm so confused. I'm gonna probably get hate. Hey, any emails good. So we welcome it here at Pop Culture.
hey. Don't bring me into this.
That's right. Please send all your.
I was gonna say send in Pop Culture Roulette. PCR for sure. No, but I mean, I just like I loved it. Listen, I grew up in the 80s, so Run DMC and New York and breakdancing on the street. I never imagined that would be a sport in the Olympics.
How do you think flag football is gonna go, Charlie?
Oh.
Now, have you heard anything about what they're planning on doing? Is it gonna be like the basketball thing where we have?
Are we having NFL people in flag football?
10 NFL guys.
I've heard that some NFL players have expressed interest, but they're not positive what's going to be allowed. It might be like a case by case.
That's in LA. It's going to be flag football.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Now, because I could see that one like having some of the more recently retired NFL players still doing, because I mean, T.O. could not handle it on the NFL field anymore, but on a flag football field, he's still going to be a freak.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of the retired players are still going to be crazy on the field, and I think it might bring back some that have.
Because I could also see, like,
Dan Marino playing flag football.
I don't know about him, but
the Chiefs will let Mahomes play because Mahomes
there's no way the Chiefs will let Patrick Mahomes play in the Olympics for flag football.
Oh, I hope they do. I really, as a Buffalo Bills fan, I hope they do.
After the deal he is giving them on his contract over and over again, I think they'll play ball.
Like as a Packer fan, like I would be up there protesting and marching if they're like, we're gonna let Jordan Love be the quarterback. No, you're not.
Wait. Before, while we're on touching on the Packers, how do you feel about Jordan Love's contract?
It's stupid monopoly money like every other contract. How do you feel about DJ Moore's contract?
I absolutely love it. Oh my God. That's going to be a bargain by the time it kicks in because that's a 4-year extension on top.
The next quarterback contract that comes around is going to make the Jordan Love contract look like a bargain.
Maybe. It's just very interesting to see that dollar figure for someone who's only played one season. I think that's, but I don't think that's really been done.
I agree with you.
Yeah, but look at what he did in that 1 year. I mean,
he beat the Cowboys in the playoffs and then
he went out and threw 30 touchdowns in his first year.
I mean, so Paul Skeens should get a huge contract after this year.
He will. Paul Skeens, maybe not after this year because he's under that rookie control con. But Paul Skeens is going to make Ohtani level money.
Although the Royals did sign Bobby Witt Jr. to an early contract, so it's possible.
Yeah. But I mean, if Paul Skeens doesn't want to stay in Pittsburgh, if he wants to get the open market, he is going to get Ohtani level money to go play somewhere.
Although, would you agree, though, pitching is one of those positions in baseball that can vary. I mean, these pitchers throw so hard. Look at what happened to Jacob deGrom, for example. These pitchers throw so hard. The risk of injury is very strong, even in the most best conditioned athletes.
And I think that, with baseball.
Like the way I switched it to baseball.
Thor, what's his name?
Syndergaard.
Syndergaard. Syndergaard, I think, is the perfect example.
Yes.
If Syndergaard would have, instead of trying to throw 100 miles an hour every pitch, if he had backed it down and just like even throwing into the low to mid 90s, he would still be pitching because
he wouldn't
have flamed out. And I think
Yep.
that's the problem with a lot of these guys. Where I think that is where Skeens is different. Like Skeens isn't routinely hitting into the hundreds. He's very more precision based. I mean,
It's a good point.
I think that's I mean, he ended up having a pretty good career, but it wasn't as good. The guy with the Nationals, why is the name escaping me?
Max
Strasburg.
Oh, you're gonna go to Max for a minute.
Strasburg had a really good career, blew out his ACL, lost a year, and then he came back, and then he never really kind of matched up, but he never fixed his form. He never fixed that hitch in his elbow because he wanted to throw it as hard as possible. So
that's true.
His career ended earlier because he blew his arm out and blew it out and just he couldn't keep it up. I think a lot of those guys, I think we live in a world where it's a home run or nothing, or you're pitching 100 miles an hour or nothing, and we have to get it back down where
I think to that point though, I think it's part of the process. I don't know if you guys see this in pitchers being able to make it to the bigs or to make it up. A large part of what people say is, oh, he could throw 100, he could throw 100 consistently, and there's this expectation that that's what the pitcher does. What the mechanics are so much as important, if not even more important, than what the pitcher is throwing.
But I mean, just because the kid can throw 100 consistently doesn't mean it's a good thing, because he's gonna blow his arm. I mean, how many pitchers are losing their careers early because they're blowing their arms out?
Jacob deGrom probably could have been one of the best pitchers of all time. Still a great pitcher, but yeah.
I mean, Syndergaard had all kinds of promise.
Oh, absolutely. We had Syndergaard and deGrom. I mean, look at the 2015 Mets. I mean, that team. Look at the pitching staff that we had.
Mets have had everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Scherzer, Verlander.
Yeah. Speaking of the Mets, by the way, how they doing?
They're pretty good, aren't they? Man,
yeah, you're gonna make me eat my words.
Give up on them in April.
Shut up. Oh man. Oh God. Yeah, I deserve that. I deserve that. Yeah, they're doing pretty good.
They're doing pretty good.
And speaking of which, we'll talk about the trade deadline. I'm impressed with what Stephen Cohen did. Yeah,
it was a very active deadline.
And that dude from the Brewers that we got, what's his name? The president. Stearns. Yeah.
I mean, I was afraid when we lost Stearns that it would be kind of the bad omen for the GM or the leadership in the Brewers organization. But because a lot of people up here were really mad that Anastasio doesn't spend money, and they're mad because he doesn't go out and spend the kind of money to pull in the Ohtani level free agents.
Or he trades his all-stars at the deadline when they're in first place.
But it's Milwaukee. Right. It's a smaller market team.
Right.
I mean,
but speaking of the Josh Hader trade from 2 years ago, you traded the one of the best closers in baseball at the trade deadline to San Diego.
That was crazy.
San Diego just had to trade for another closer because they couldn't keep Hader. So, I mean, and some of the stuff that the Brewers got for Hader is why the Brewers are in first place right now.
Oh yeah, they're very smart front office. Imagine what that front office would do with money, with Dodgers money.
Right.
Wild.
But I also wonder if it's not a better front office because they don't have money. They have to be creative. I mean, who would have thought that, some of the pitchers that are pitching really well for them right now would, they probably wouldn't even be on a roster on a lot of other teams. But, they're frontline starters right now because the front office knows how to get the bet. I mean, it's kind of like Moneyball 2.0. Like,
it could be a good sequel, but I mean, small market teams do amazing things because that's.
I mean, when Counsell went to the Cubs, everybody's like, "That's it, we're done." And then they went and hired, Pat Murphy, and everybody's like, "Oh, we didn't hire these big splashy, one of these sexy coaches," and I mean, the Brewers have been in first place since day one.
Yeah.
So
What
I think
better to do than get Council's right hand man who learned under him for a bunch of years?
that's true. I mean, to your point, we talk about small market teams that do it well, like the Rays, the Tampa Bay Rays, the Brewers.
I did want to ask you about that, Charlie. I know you're a secondary Rays fan.
That was a worlds colliding moment for me. That trade. That was
Well, there was that, but the level of people that they traded off of the Rays, was that the Rays just giving up on the year?
I don't think so because they have pretty much internal replacements for most of what they traded. So, for example, they traded Eflin to the Orioles. Everyone's like, okay, they're giving up a great starting pitcher. Well, Jeffrey Springs just came off the injured list and started Tuesday. So, Springs, before he got hurt last year, was arguably one of the top 2 or 3 pitchers in all of baseball before he blew out his arm in 23. So, you replace him with him. They traded Paredes to the Cubs, who they picked up Morel, who they have a similar comp from the Rays end, and he's already hit 2 homers in 2 games for them. They traded away a reliever, one of their better relievers in Jason Adam, but they're also getting Drew Rasmussen back off the injured list in the next couple days, who is expected to fill in Adams' role. So they honestly have they're trying to keep winning at the same time. So,
but they also traded Rosarena.
They did. They also traded a Rosarena. That's true. But that actually, from the Rays' perspective, they do that quite often because he was about to be making 8 figures for the next couple seasons.
They wanted to get the value out of him.
Well, and that's the same thing. Like, all the Brewer fans were mad about Hader, but there was no way they were keeping Hader. The Brewer fans were pretty mad about Burns, but there was no way they were keeping Burns.
So the interesting thing about that is you brought up a point earlier, which was that the Brewers are using many pieces in the Hader trade from the Padres. So the Preller, the Padres GM, is known for maybe overpaying. Well, if you think the haul was good that the Brewers got for the Hader deal, I mean, the same team, the Padres, they gave away their number 3, number 6, and number 12 prospect to Tampa in that deal, and it was a wild trade for a reliever. Don't get me wrong, Jason Adam is great, and I think he's going to do very well. The Padres are going to be a very, very interesting team to watch because
so basically what I'm hearing is
he basically structured his team for October. They're going to have their starters go 4 or 5 innings, and they have like 7 high level relievers that they can throw at you. They're going to be an interesting team to watch come October.
So what I'm hearing is that Milwaukee and Tampa are basically, mirror images of each other. They are not going to pay money, and they're just going to
I think that's a good estimation of that.
Yeah,
yes.
You get both to a their front offices are extremely smart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it brings me to a point I wanted to make. Talking about small market teams, can we just agree that the Miami Marlins are basically everybody's AAA team? I mean, what the heck? You talk about not running a small market team correctly or appropriately. What the hell are they doing? Like, I can't even.
I'll tell you what, they finally picked the lane. They sold off everybody.
They did pick a lane. It doesn't make me want to drive to Miami to watch them.
I gotta say though, if you look around at a lot of the, Athletic, CBS, ESPN, a lot of people seem to think the Marlins were one of the 2 best winners of the whole deadline.
I don't disagree.
They made some really nice deals.
However, I and I've said this, we've talked about this. I don't think anybody's eventually staying. I think this ownership's.
I hear you. A lot of the guys they got will be gone in 5 or 6 years.
Bye-bye.
But they got a lot of good, young, cheap guys that they can,
we might make the playoffs in a year or 2.
Be a wild card team for a couple of years.
And as soon as that happens,
they get expensive.
I hate that. That's what about this team. I hate that. They did it in 98. They did it in 2004. I hate that.
I lived in Florida the last time they won the World Series.
2003.
And I remember that was as soon as they won the World Series, they're like, we want a new stadium. And they're like, no. So they did exactly what they did when they won the World Series in 97. Mm-hmm. Sold everybody.
And we beat the Yankees of all teams. Come on now. What the hell? But yeah, I say we. If the audience doesn't know, I do like the Marlins. I know I'm a Mets fan, but the Marlins are my hometown team here. So yeah,
it's kind of like I'm a diehard Angels fan, which I will.
I'm sorry.
I will own that.
But I own that
But
too.
because they're a National League team and I live here, I've sort of started becoming a Brewer fan. Because most of my family now that I live here is become a Brewer fans, and so and they're a National League team. But when I go to the Angels Brewers games when they come to town every other year, I'm wearing my Angels jersey. It is not like right now.
Mets versus Marlins. I'm on Mets.
Let's not forget, Nicholas, that the last 3 games you've gone to have been Cub games. So the Cubs are probably your number 3 team, right?
He wants to survive in Milwaukee. I don't think.
Oh yeah, no, it is the last 3 because the Brewers Angels was before I went down to We Are Family.
Cubs,
you can't live in Milwaukee with the Cubs,
Reds, and Cincy, and then you got to see the Angels at Wrigley.
Yeah, that was a super fun game. Yeah, that was awesome. Well, let me tell you.
You know what you should do in the next episode of your podcast with your buddies there? Put on a Cubs hat. Yeah, how that goes over.
I think that might be the last episode of the podcast.
They're diehard. I know they're diehard Brewers.
Yeah, they're diehard Brewer fans, and more than diehard Brewer fans, Justin at least is a diehard hate everything Illinois.
You can't hate Charlie.
Well, I mean, I don't think he hate. I mean,
he doesn't know Charlie.
I think he's referring to teams.
Yeah,
I know. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean,
you said everything, so. Yeah. Well, I hear that in his vernacular when he talks. That basically, I think an episode or 2 ago, like, oh, fuck that Chicago.
we might have even referenced Charlie directly in the last episode that we did. So,
I didn't listen to the whole thing yet.
Oh, okay. Well, it wasn't. It was basically I had just gone to the Renaissance Fair here, where it is there in Bristol, just up the road from you, and there were a couple of really bad drivers, and of course they had Illinois plates. So I made a reference I said something about Illinois drivers being really bad, and then I just said, "I'm coming for you, Charlie."
Hey, well, we got
except
you,
for Charlie.
We got you to and from Dayton safe and sound. So
that is true.
All right. we beat it.
So yeah. So I mean, the Marlins really. I know it's the history of the team, and you living here, Nicholas, kind of know the mentality down here and how passive South Florida fans are in general with sports. I would say
to all of their teams except for the Dolphins. The Dolphins have a pretty loyal following, but when I lived down there, I don't know what the Panthers are like now.
They have a pretty decent following, I must say.
But when I lived there, it was the year they had this All-Star game, so I bought a season ticket package so that I could go to the All-Star game.
I was there too.
And then so it was like a 20 or a 40 game it was you could go to any game. You could go to you could take 40 people to one game, or you could go to 40 different games. It was a weird season.
I won my tickets.
It was a weird season ticket package.
I assume you went to 20 with somebody.
Yeah. But
and there was nobody at the arena.
Well, I figured out real fast after the first time I tried to go, Buffalo, Rangers, and Islanders, don't go. Just stay away. Don't go.
Lots of Sabre fans down here.
Don't go anywhere near for those 3 teams.
That's true.
Philly, not so much. Bruins got kind of bad as well, but not as much. So I would just go to whoever, the Carolina Hurricanes, because nobody went to that one. Who cares? I mean.
And don't go see the Dolphins and the Bills, because that parking lot is crazy after that game. When you see Buffalo and Miami fans, ooh, you talk about a rivalry. Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. In general, this is South Florida here is very passive in sports, except for football, a little bit of hockey. But I mean, look, the Panthers play in Sunrise, which is in Western Broward County. The Heat play in Miami. The Dolphins play in Miami Gardens, which is basically on the border of Miami and Broward. They're so spread out all over the place, and it's just such a transient group of people that live. I mean,
because when I was living there, it was the beginning of Dwayne Wade and the Shaq era.
Yeah.
But it was even then, even when they were winning, the Heat weren't really bringing the crowd just still wasn't as But whatever. I mean, I think it's more of the culture of South Florida being a very transient community to begin with.
Yeah,
There's not a lot of people that I met living in Florida who were actually from Florida.
I got that. That's right. And when I went to like Baltimore, for example, and I saw the Orioles at Camden Yards, I was in culture shock because I had never. It's been a long time. The Mets are like this too, and the Yankees are like this in New York. I have never. It's been a while since I was in a stadium where real baseball fans who know baseball were watching baseball, and
Yeah.
that's Camden Yards was just like that. And I was like, it was thrilling, because I love baseball myself. When you go to a game in Miami, and you still have to go to Miami, Charlie. So that's on your list. But you'll see this when you go to a game in Miami, it is so odd. You agree, Nicholas? Like it's like
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I
not a
never went.
baseball game.
I went when I've not been to the new stadium, so I think they were still playing where in Joe Robbie or
Yes, Joe Robbie. Well,
yeah.
now
So
Hard Rock Stadium now where the
yeah,
Dolphins play. Yes.
but yeah. So I mean, they were playing in a weird. But I mean, like, listen, when I go to the Brewer games occasionally, or I went, been to the Cubs just recently. Those fans are loyal to their team regardless of how bad their team is. They still show up to the game.
Cubs fans are
The
a classic
stadium
like that.
the stadium is still full. Even though I'm not a fan, I respect the Cubs fans because win or lose, they're still Cubs fans. They're
That's
not
absolutely correct.
like living. I lived in Atlanta for 10
They're
years.
not bandwagoners.
Right. I lived in Atlanta for 10 years. The Braves have a pretty hardcore following, but the Falcons, if they're losing, nobody's a Falcons fan. As soon as they start winning, everybody's like, "Oh, I love the Falcons." You know,
Yes.
same thing with the Hawks, and there's a reason that Atlanta's lost two NHL franchises. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a similar kind of mentality in Atlanta and Miami. I mean, it's Southeast in general, I
yeah.
think, is like that.
But I do think that 14 or 16 straight years of winning the division probably instilled a lot of hardcore fans in the younger group. So I think the people my age, because when I moved to Atlanta, it was right at the beginning of them winning. So like the entire time I lived there, they won the division. Like, so I mean, it was just, you just expected it. So um I think there so
Boo.
the people who are my age are probably hardcore baseball fans now, because when they grew up, like, they just had a winner. Like,
Yeah, how could you not as a
Listen,
kid? Yeah.
Maddox, Smoltz. I mean, that Braves
Maddox,
team,
Smoltz, Glavine,
Glavin.
Avery.
I mean, my
Millwood.
God, that team was
Yeah.
freaking epic. And as much as it pains me as a Met fan, I just hate the Braves so much.
Well, I don't
I'm
disagree with
like a Brewer fan hating on the Cubs. That's how I am with the Braves. I just
I don't disagree with hating on the Braves, but that's a whole nother
oh,
thing. But you know, like, right,
their
like I
fans are
said,
so obnoxious too.
I'm a diehard Angels fan. I just bought a new Angels hat. Like, I still wear my Otani jersey. Like, in fact, I wore it to the Reds Cubs game with
Love that.
Charlie.
Love that.
Um,
You guys
I will,
remember? Okay, go ahead.
however, say that my owner is terrible.
One of the
Um,
worst. I say one of because the worst one is in Chicago, and
Well,
his
he
name
let
is Gary
Otani go.
Reinsdorf.
yeah,
How do you let Otani go, but in the same breath sign Trout for how many years? Like, what the hell?
I think Otani, the more I look into it, the more I think about it. I don't think that even if they had made the same
He
offer
would
for
have
like
wanted to
one,
go there.
I think he wanted to go to the Dodgers. He loves LA. He wants to stay near all his friends. He can still go hang out with Trout and all those guys. Um, and
But
I
he
don't
wanted to
think,
be on a winning
There,
team.
there
but
were some reports behind the scenes that he deep down he wanted to stay with the Angels.
I think there were there, but I think at the end of the day, Moreno didn't make, because when Trout signed his big deal, Moreno had signed some bigger players and had made some commitment to
Cough,
looking like
cough,
he
Rendon.
looked like he was gonna try to win. And I think that
Pujols.
when it was Otani's turn to do the same, Moreno didn't show the same level of commitment to trying to win. I do think that trading Carlos Estevez wasn't a mistake. I mean, I hate it, but at the same time, we got 2 top 10 prospects out of the Phillies. What's the last time we traded with the Phillies? We got Mickey Moniak and Logan O'Hoppe, which are generational, generational players. And I think
well, Mickey Moniak was supposed to be a big deal.
And in Philly, he flamed out, but in Anaheim, he's finding a place in the lineup every day. Now, granted, a lot of that's because Trout can't stay healthy, but
Trout hasn't made an All-Star game in like 7 years.
Good.
And O'Hoppe is becoming one of the best catchers in the game. I know a lot of Angels fans are pretty mad that we didn't do more with the trade deadline, but if you look at our lineup, don't look at the pitching, just look at the batting lineup. If we can get Trout healthy, that batting lineup is a killer.
That's a big if.
I mean, defensively, we're solid. Even without Trout healthy, we've got a pretty decent team offensively and defensively. We just don't have pitching, or consistent pitching.
So that brings me to a question. Why is it, and I've been wanting to ask you this for a while, why is it that the Angels, now mind you, they play in Anaheim. It's not really Los Angeles, but it's close enough. Why do the Angels act like such a small market team when they're in the big market? I don't understand that. Because they're in Los Angeles.
See, I don't know if they necessarily act like a small market. I think it's just
they act like a stupid
decisions.
Market.
They act like a stupid market.
They act like a stupid market. Yeah. Moreno is worth $5 billion. And they call themselves the Los Angeles Angels because Moreno decided.
Imagine how much pitching they could get
of Anaheim
contract alone.
Well, there was a whole thing about that, but Moreno decided he could get better marketing deals because he made his money off of outdoor advertising. Most of the outdoor billboards you see in this
billboards,
like he's
the Clear Channel bought them or something,
right? Yeah. His money came from billboards and out advertising, so he decided that he would make more money on TV deals and marketing deals by calling themselves the Los Angeles Angels. Well, the city of Anaheim decided they were going to sue over that. So to keep from having to pay out, millions upon millions of dollars, they had to add of Anaheim, and then immediately just stopped officially using it. Like it was just the Los Angeles Angels. On the logo, it still says of Anaheim, but like no one ever says it. And now, like most people don't even just the team just calls themselves the Angels. I don't even think they even reference LA anymore.
So Granny Sue in Oshkosh doesn't know that they're actually in Anaheim or where Anaheim is in reference to Dodger Stadium, for example.
Right.
They don't know it's an hour drive.
Right. I mean, it would basically be like if Milwaukee decided to rename itself the Chicago Brewers.
Yes.
Because Chicago is a bigger market than Milwaukee. I mean, it's dumb and I hate it and I wish we would go back, and I hope when we do get new owners that's the first thing they do is go back to either being the California Angels or the Anaheim Angels.
I still call them, it tells you how old I am, I still call them the California Angels.
I've been a fan for so long, and I'm a diehard. I watch however many games a year. My dad raised me to be an Angels fan. Him and I still refer to them as the California Angels or Anaheim Angels. No Angel fan I've ever met seriously calls them the LA Angels.
So you guys must really love Rod Carew.
Yeah, I mean, what is there not to love about Rod Carew? I mean,
when I think of Rod Carew, that's what I first think of is the Angels. He did.
I mean, that's the first thing I think.
He did.
Adam Sandler song.
The Hanukkah song.
Yeah. I think of the one Beastie Boys song, but
which one? Oh yeah,
got mad hits like Rod Carew. But yeah. I mean, there's.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The Angels have had some amazing players come through that franchise. I mean, we had Reggie Jackson for a while.
Yes, did.
We had Bo Jackson for a year. We had Albert Pujols for a long time. We had
Mike Trout. Shohei.
We've had Mike Trout. We had Shohei. I love him. I know. I mean, Charlie will probably love him too. But Wally Joyner.
Classic.
Oh yeah,
Wally Joyner was as a kid. Wally Joyner was my all-time
Garrett Anderson,
player.
Tim Salmon.
I will die on
Erstad.
I will die on the hill that Garrett Anderson should be in the Hall of Fame.
You even had Noah Syndergaard too, by the way.
Well, I don't like to talk about that, but I mean, I think Garrett Anderson was his own worst enemy because of how easy he made, because of how effortlessly he looked. He made it look like he wasn't trying, but that man hitting defense, left field, like he was one of the best that ever did it. But because he wasn't flashy and he didn't run his mouth and he played on the Angels, he didn't get the recognition that he deserved.
There's so many other good Angels you could name, like John Lackey. How about Jared Weaver?
Jared Weaver, John Lackey. I mean, we could spend the next however long just naming Angel
about
players.
The California Angels. See, I said California. But yeah, I mean, people. Our buddy Andy lives in Anaheim. It pisses them off when people say Los Angeles Angels because
I mean, the only person who likes it is Artie Moreno.
Yeah, I mean, look at the New York Giants and the New York Jets. They don't play even in New York. They play in New Jersey. I mean, as a person who lived in Jersey for quite a while, I always found that quite irritating, even though I didn't like either team. But the New York Jets, they both teams play in the same stadium. They play in the Meadowlands in New Jersey. I mean, yeah, it's over a bridge to Staten Island, but they're still in New Jersey.
Yeah. The New York teams that.
But then the New Jersey Nets moved to Brooklyn and they called themselves that annoyed me. I'm from Brooklyn, but they were able to call themselves the Brooklyn Nets. Anyway, sorry, I digress. So one more thing I wanted to bring up, and I apologize in advance to our buddy Nicholas here because I know you don't watch Big Brother. But Charlie, real quick. Angela.
No.
Oh, I can't stand her. Oh, she's the worst.
Well, the funny thing is that was the perfect response. Nicholas knows her perfectly. He's been secretly watching.
I picked up on context clues from facial expressions, but yeah,
you can see Charlie like sneaking down.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh my God. So Nicholas, to bring you some perspective, there is this real estate agent, Angela, who is about my age, early 50s, and she's a contestant. So, yeah, right. Thank you. But she's a contestant on this season's Big Brother, and that's really not the story. The story is that this lady is probably in quite some time, I don't know if you agree, Charlie, one of the most obnoxious, annoying players to play this game, without a doubt. And there's two sets of people that watched. So Big Brother is a live feed show, and it's also on CBS, of course. When you watch the live feeds, and Charlie's not really a live feed watcher, but when you watch the live feeds, you see kind of the non-edited version of the show. And the live feed watchers love Angela because she brings so much entertainment because she's so ridiculous at how. But the TV watchers, she is the biggest villain I think that has ever been on the show, and I'm kind of in the middle.
So I enjoy for just like a quick synopsis, Nicholas. They're literally she's the head of household, so she's up in her own room, and everyone is just having a nice dinner. They're sitting, they're laughing, they're talking. A couple people are cooking, and then out of nowhere, she comes storming down the stairs and goes on this like epic rant at one of the younger men. She claps at him. She calls him
Matt.
She calls him crazy eyes. Yeah, crazy eyes.
Crazy eyes.
It was a meltdown of epic proportion, I thought.
So you think that Angela is more annoying than Danielle Reyes?
Oh, you just Googled? Did you just Google that?
Or Paul Abrahamian?
That's pretty.
All right,
good.
well, let me get. So Danielle Reyes was in season 3 of Big Brother, and she was awesome. I love her. She was on Reindeer Games, and actually, she's going to be on the Traitors. So there you go.
She's going to be on the next season of Traitors, so you'll get to know her. Funny that you Googled it.
And Paul Abraham it has a big beard, so he kind of reminds me a little of you. And he was on 2 back-to-back seasons of the show.
Wow, so he really is a fan.
Yeah, so Nicholas.
Or Shannon Drago.
You're going back. Shannon was Will's kind of fling and back.
So did you Google biggest Big Brother villains?
Yes.
Well, is Dick on the list? Because Dick has
Yeah,
to be on the
Dick
list. Dick
Donato
Donato.
was there. Rachel Riley, Frankie
I
Grande,
love
Grande,
Rachel.
Frankie Grande is Ariana's brother.
Jack Matthews.
How did he make it on for biggest villain?
How is wait? Jack is the older guy. How is Jack a villain?
How is Frankie Jack a villain?
How is Frankie's not a villain?
This was 10 most hated cast members of all time.
Oh yes. Well, there are people don't like Frankie. That's true, actually. Yeah, I don't know why, but so good. Thank you, Nicholas, for doing some. Oh,
that was nice. That was committed to the bit. I love it.
So you have this dichotomy, right? So you have Angela, who's this older lady, and Matt Hardiman, who is this younger guy. You know, he's the season's buff guy. You know, he's like already starting a showmance with this girl, and
too strong.
Way ridiculously strong. And so,
particularly in the going away messages, at least 3 or 4 of the people said, "What were you doing? You're playing the game so dumb."
Quinn said, "You just met her."
Joseph said, "You played the worst game I've ever seen in my life," and
Joseph's one of the strangest dudes on the planet. So she basically, what they showed on TV is her bullying him. I mean, he had some part of it, they didn't show on the feeds. He's no innocent person either. But I think she went way over the top, ridiculously so. And honestly, this is gonna open your eyes to why, Nicholas. Her previous past. She was on Dr. Phil with her daughter. So she has had this drama. She's been on The Price is Right. She's been on Let's Make a Deal. She is a media attention seeking, and I really shouldn't say that because I've been on a number of things myself, but she is a media attention seeking person. I would never bully, by the way, a 20-something-year-old on TV. Just saying. It's not my thing. Yeah. And then you have the other guy, Kenny, who is the other old guy on the show. And Charlie doesn't see all of this, but just today, again, he wants to quit the show. He wants to get out. People some people like, well, it's a strategy. No, the dude literally might self-evict this week. That is like where we're at with Kenny. He misses his wife. He texts his wife all the time, and he can't not be with, like, dude, like, why are you on the show if you don't want to be on? I don't like quitters, and anything. Why do it? Why so? We currently have, and I'm gonna not spoil it for Charlie because he doesn't watch the feed, so he doesn't know well, you do know the veto, actually, right?
I don't know. It's on tonight though, so you can wait till.
All right, I won't spoil it.
Yeah, don't.
I won't spoil it, but I will tell you though that as of before the veto, we have Angela, Lisa, and Kenny up for eviction. That's who is nominated.
Yep.
2
of my team again.
I'm looking at the actual current nominees to make sure I don't spoil it.
Yeah, don't spoil it.
I will not do that to you. I never do that. So Lisa, the house guests are really kind of wanting her out because they find her annoying. They don't like her. She is a head chef who basically put edible glitter on people's food and honestly, actually, interestingly enough, has a connection to the 3 of us in that she's really good friends with Grayson, who is one of our casting directors on We Are Family. So Lisa, the house guests are not liking her for whatever reason. So she right now is kind of between her and Angela are the targets to get out.
You know what I think it was in the very beginning introductions when she interrupted Tucker, and then Tucker's kind of like planting that seed.
Like, you don't mess with a chef versus chef. It's so weird because in the pre-gaming, Rob Has a Podcast said, watch Tucker and Angela have a problem because they're both chefs, and boom.
Lisa.
Oh, so why did I see Angela's on my brain? Lisa, thank you. How often do you have to do that?
That's okay. That's what I'm here
for. Thanks. I don't think Angela's along for the game.
We'll see. I hope
she's a good shield, though. Exactly. If I was on the show, I would keep her that way. Yeah.
And as long as she's there,
she is so annoying.
Her and not other people. So
she has literally. So Quinn gave her a secret, told her that he had one of the powers. There's 2 powers, by the way, that are in play, and she went and blabbed already what the power
So,
was that somebody did.
Tim, maybe
Yeah.
you can answer this because you're into this world a lot more than I've been.
So is Charlie.
Now that well, I think even more than Charlie, because you've done so many more shows than me and Charlie have done. Big Brother, Survivor, those types of shows, do they fall under the game show law?
They do.
Okay, I've never been because I've never known like I know like America's Got Talent because people can actually vote on it. Um, I know like the show that we were on and those kind of game shows. There's a law specifically designed to keep things, but like I never knew where Survivor or Big Brother or like some of those other that type of the mole, like like because so I didn't know if they were actually classified as game shows or not, so if they fell into the same law.
They are. To answer your question and some pretext for people that might not know, in the 1950s, there was a game show called 21. And they had a man on the show named Herbert Stemple, who was the ongoing champion of 21. 21 was a game where you had to get to 21. You answer questions that were worth a certain number of points. And the first to 21, there were two soundproof booths, would win. And Herbert Stemple was the reigning champion for quite a while. And they thought he was kind of bland and they wanted to sweeten things up a little bit. So there was this well-known educator, a teacher, a professor at Columbia University named Charles Van Doren, who was well known at the time in the 50s in New York. And all the game shows at that time, or most of TV, was taped in New York City. And so they talked to Charles Van Doren, and the producers of 21, Barry and Wright, decided that he would help Charles Van Doren win his rounds. So they put the fix in to give him the answers to the questions. So, of course, Herbert Stemple was told at the same point, we're going to give you X amount of dollars. We want you to lose. And this is all, if you watch the Robert Redford movie Quiz Show, that's what the quiz show is based
Really
on.
good movie.
Great movie. That's what spurred like this whole history of quiz shows. So basically, Charles Van Doren went on a run, and it was eventually Herbert Stemple eventually got pissed off, and I think he was played by John Turturro in the movie, if I remember
I
correctly.
think so, yeah.
So he eventually blabbed, and there was this whole Senate investigation on quiz show scandals. And what came of it was that you are not allowed, you had a very strict protocol. If you were going to do a game show, you had to agree to it's a federal law. You cannot mess with quiz shows. There's attorneys, as we know, we are family. There are attorneys involved in the rules. They're very strict of who has access to different game materials. And so that has been standard. And so reality competition shows like Big Brother, Survivor, Amazing Race, The Mole, you name it, they're all competing to win a prize. So access to competitions, all that stuff has to be under strict game show control. There are attorneys that are present that will follow through on that. Big Brother is also considered a game. All these reality shows that we know as reality are really classified as game shows. And so even though they're a long kind of form show, they still fall under that, to answer your question.
Okay, because
Under
I mean,
game show.
I've often wondered with like Survivor, like it just sometimes it seems like the person who wins like fits a certain box, and you're just like, man, is it?
No, Survivor's voted on by the people that they vote out.
Right.
But you can create the competitions to be a certain way if you're
true. I mean, true.
To do that.
But in the end, the winner's decided by the people.
Correct.
But that what I was, because there are I don't watch Survivor any more than I watch Big Brother, but it's just that's just not my style of show.
100% understand.
I watch a lot of cooking shows. My wife and I watch.
I enjoy it.
Beat Bobby Flay, Barbecue Brawl.
Worst cooks in America.
Well, we gave up on that one. That one just got too much. Like they when Worst Cooks in America started, it was fun because like they were genuinely like bad cooks and they were learning. And like by the end of it, you're like, wow, like this person who didn't know how to crack an egg is now cooking, a 5-course steak dinner. And at some point, they stopped focusing on the cooking and became more about the personalities. and there was just a certain type of personality that they kept pulling in that the wife and I were just like, all right, we're done with this show. But Chopped,
I love that
we
stuff too.
the baking championships, all the various
Those
seasons,
fall
like,
under game shows too, by the way.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
But
the cooking competition.
I often wondered, like, if, because sometimes it just seems like certain types of people win, or a certain category, that it sometimes it feels like maybe the fix is in, and it but it, now that I've been on the other side of it,
Yeah.
that's why I was wondering where it actually stood, because you get the people
I
who
tell
are,
people I look stupid because I was at that point, whatever it was.
yeah, because you'll see people online trying to argue that, like, in particular, like, America's Got Talent, oh, it's fixed, it's not, oh, it's if you look at it, it's called an entertainment show, not a game show, so they can and it's like, no, it's not. Like, if you put that kind of money involved and you allow the American public to vote, if it comes out that it was rigged, like the amount of actual jail time that Simon Cowell and some of these other
Absolutely.
people would, they can definitely do things to kind of sway the opinion.
So, for
But
example, like America's Got Talent, up until they have the on-air semifinals or finals, those are considered still audition rounds because you still have judges that are making decisions. Once you put that control in America's hands for voting, it becomes a totally different animal.
so, yeah, I mean, because they control who gets on, but once they're
Yeah.
on, like, you can't change the outcome of any of that.
And
So,
speaking of game shows, real quick, I'd be remiss to say shout out to my Wheel of Fortune family. This weekend, I spent the weekend in Las Vegas. We had a Wheel of Fortune slot tournament. Let me tell you, the brother and sisterhood of these folks was unbelievable. Like the connections that I made, it was over at the Yo-Yo in Vegas. It was so much fun. And I was thinking in my head, how could we do something like that for, other shows? It was just, it was worth it. It was just such a great, we need to have the True Crew slot tournament or something in
oh,
Vegas.
speaking of things that we've been that, you asked what I've been watching, that we've been, the 1% Club.
Oh yeah,
Charlie likes that show. I
yeah, we've
don't
been watching
like
that
it.
too.
Yeah, my wife and I really enjoy
We've seen
it.
them all, but the most recent one, I think.
I don't know if we're caught up. I think we're caught up, but I'm not sure. We could. I don't know if we've watched. Was there an episode this week?
I think there was, yes.
Then no, we're not caught up, because
That's
we've
the one
been
I'm
watching
missing,
pretty
I
much
think.
just the Olympics. But
Yeah.
I think they're gonna have to drastically change it for the second season, because the longer the show goes, the more I've figured out how to read the questions. So I'm getting better and better. So if I
Yeah.
was to audition and get on the second season, like, I know how to read the word problems without getting trapped in where they're trying to trap you.
Yeah.
So they're
They
gonna
do
have
they
to.
do a good job with that. There's
Yeah,
definitely
sometimes
some.
they still get me, but
Yeah, it's like, wait, what?
because they try to put too much information into a question, and you've got to realize, like, you've got to figure out where, like, what they're actually
What's the dead
asking.
weight? Yeah.
Yeah, what they're like, oh, 7 people were doing this, and 4 people were doing that, and 3 people were doing. How many people were, how many apples were there? And you're like, but there's only one apple. What is all, so, you're like,
So I pulled up some data and I expected it to be different than what I'm looking at. So I'm looking at ratings data for 1% Club because I expected it to kind of go down. And episode 2 went up 8% in the key demographic. Episode 3 went down 12%, went up the next episode up 4%, up 8%, down 12, down 4, and then up 19. So I mean it's pretty stable. The ratings are very similar to We Are Family. Which for a summer
It doesn't show
program
streaming on there though, right?
never does.
See,
Yeah.
we're watching on Prime.
yeah, that's the only way
Yeah.
we've ever watched it.
I feel like that's doing it a disservice even.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see whether or not I do know from hearing the information on it that, contestants were on the episode for one episode and one episode only. Once you're out, you're out. And they cast mostly LA locals because it was filmed in LA.
Yeah, but because you got to
I
get
I wouldn't go on it myself because
they're up to 8 or 9 episodes, so that's, you're talking 800-900 to 1,000 people that you've got to get in, and I'm wondering how many episodes they film in a day, so how many people are just hanging out in the green room.
Yeah.
Because like, like, oh, you 100 are in this episode, you 50
I
are
think
going
they
to be on
filmed
the
2
next
in a
one.
day.
Okay, yeah, because that they got a couple people hanging out just in case, or
I
I
feel
don't.
like I'm in the 100% club when I watch it. I'm like, that's one show is not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I would if there is a second season for that one, I would strongly consider trying to go on that.
I will give you the info. Absolutely. So anything else you want to talk about, Nicholas, before we wrap up, buddy?
Well, I just to do a little shameless self promotion.
Yes, please do.
This year we didn't do it last year for a couple reasons. One of them being that I was on We Are Family. But for the 2 years before that, we had did what we were calling 31 for 31.
One upping 30 for 30.
Yeah, okay. We also shamelessly steal from other places. But
really?
For the month of October, we do 31 pieces of content. So a different thing every day of the month. It could be a little like 5-minute video on YouTube. It could be a whole podcast. It's gonna be something various. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, and it's all Halloween based. Pop Culture Roulette is very obsessed with Halloween. We didn't do it last year because I was going to be in Atlanta for the first week or so of it, but also Jeremy went back to college and he just didn't have time. So it just kind of worked out that we didn't do it, but we decided we're going to do it again this year. So we've
awesome.
already
looking forward to that.
So
Me too.
we've already been working on it. I do a little segment called Horror Through the Decades, where I pick a different movie from each decade that I've been alive. I'm only getting 4 segments this year, so I'm doing 1970, 1980, 1990, and 2000, or is it 80, 92? I don't remember exactly when it is. But I'm doing The Fog, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, Tremors, and Pitch Black.
Oh, I love Tremors.
So yeah. I'm gonna, and that's on YouTube. I think we released that as a audio version as well. I don't remember, but that one's on YouTube.
Jeremy it's your lucky day, Nicholas, because our buddy over here, Tim, is now a YouTube star. So he shares that for you, and then bam, nice. It's gonna explode.
But like Jeremy will do a couple episodes of like him decorating his house because he goes all out for the Halloween decorations. We do just Halloween themed pop culture episode of PCR.
Does he have any Millennium Falcon around?
It's the Death Star.
The Death Star. That's right.
Yeah, we got to keep those away from him. But yeah, so we're working on it. We've already been, we haven't filmed anything yet, but I've been working on some of my content already. I know he's filmed some of the stuff. So that's what we got that coming up. So
taking notes.
So So head over to Facebook Pop Culture Roulette or Instagram Pop Culture Roulette. Those are the 2 easiest ways to get a hold of me. And
anywhere you can listen to the podcast.
And anywhere you can listen to the podcast, go ahead and listen to it. Subscribe, like, rate, do all the stuff that you're supposed to do for this one. Do it for us. Even if you don't listen, just subscribe anyway.
And I will say, I rave. It's a great podcast. It's great just to listen to on the way.
I gotta hear the most recent one so I can hear the shout out. Find the Easter egg.
And I had a shout out in the episode before, so thank you for that. And I'm glad that my review of Jeremy in the show came off okay. But yeah, it's a great podcast. You guys have a great rapport, great chemistry. Just it's entertaining and it's what we like. It's pop culture, and just to listen to something on the way, on a drive, wherever. I highly recommend following Pop Culture Roulette without a doubt. Not just because Nicholas is our friend.
Well, I know what we'll be listening to when we pick you up from the airport tomorrow on the way back.
Oh yeah, How far is the drive from O'Hare to your house?
Like 35, 40. We can take a scenic route.
All right, there you go. We'll listen to it in the morning. Actually, I will be seeing you in less than 12 hours coming off a plane. So there you go. All right. Nicholas, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, folks, Pop Culture Roulette, find it wherever you get your podcasts, also on Facebook, Instagram. Well worth it.
And this was a lot of fun, Nicholas. Thanks for joining.
Oh, thank you.
This has been Around the Bases, a pop culture and sports podcast with your hosts,
Charlie Seymour.
And I'm Tim Sternberg with Nicholas Pepin, our special guest. And until next time, have a great week, everybody. Bye.